Treasury says there's no beef between it and the Department of Public Enterprises over the sale of a majority share in the national airline. This after it previously told Parliament it was not involved in trashing out the deal. Both ministers appeared before Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts today to explain elements of that transaction. SAA has also been tabled audited financial statements for a number of years. For more on this, eNCA reporter Lindsay Dentlinger joins me from Cape Town to tell us more. Lindsay, let's start with the reported tension between Treasury and Public Enterprises over this deal. What have the ministers had to say?
Well, Maseko, just to take you back, there have been members on this very committee who felt that this deal has been shrouded in secrecy for too long, and they're wanting to know about this transaction. And so various questions have been posed both to the Department of Public Enterprises and to the National Treasury. And where this all started, that there's tension between these two departments, was when National Treasury told the Standing Committee on Public Accounts that they just simply have not been involved in the transaction in terms of thrashing out a good deal, if you will, for government. And today, the Minister of Finance saying that this particular deal does not fall under a section of the Public Finance Management Act that would require Treasury to play a more active role in the transaction. This is rather a transaction that falls under the Companies Act and is a very unique transaction for government to engage in. So really Treasury's role was to ask questions, and that there was nothing untoward about it asking question. Neither was there tension between it and the Department of Public Enterprises, which has chiefly been the one in charge of thrashing out this deal. And so the Finance Minister and the Public Enterprises Minister saying that there was simply just no tension between them in terms of working out this deal. Here's the Finance Minister, Gordhan, explaining Treasury's role in this transaction.
It's in the nature of National Treasury to have this boxing arrangements with, it doesn't mean any fighting. We had a presentation last week where health fighting with us over NHI. You will have social development fighting with us on social security also. It doesn't mean a conflictual arrangement. It does mean it's an internal process of, from our side, fighting to preserve our space in terms of expenditure and money. So those questions are a matter of detail, and if to the extent that there are disagreement, are a matter of detail over judging the eye. So, in a sense, I agree with the Minister of Public Enterprise that it's our nature to ask questions and people answer. It doesn't mean any contradiction.
Lindsay, where exactly are we in the process of the sale of SAA?
Well, Maseko, it seems like it could still be a little while off before this whole transaction is concluded, even though a sale and purchase agreement was signed back in February. The Public Enterprises Minister, Gordhan, telling the committee that there were still a number of regulatory issues which need to be ironed out before this is all a done deal. However, some MPs seem to see this already as a fait accompli and that it's all already signed on the dotted line. And he's also telling the committee that there's just certain information they cannot share because this is still a commercial transaction. But he wanted to assure the committee that things were on the up, that the staff morale had improved, that a new formula for the way things would be done at the airline is possibly also in the offing, although there are concerns about the cost of crude oil and what this will mean for the airline. And then we also hear that Treasury still has about 1.8 billion rand that it will pay around July as it chips away at the debt of SAA. But Gordhan trying to assure Parliament today that that government, at least, even though it will be a minority shareholder, will have a preferential deal. It will be first in line to receive dividends. And as he put it, it will stop the state from throwing money into a bottomless pit, which is what we all know SAA to have have become. And then he also told Parliament that there were also talks with another airline on the continent, Kenya Airways, for a possible partnership that could see improvements to aviation on the continent. Here's the Public Enterprises Minister.
There are all sorts of opportunities that are open to the airline arising from the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, for example, the kind of interconnectivity that we want to see within the African continent itself, and the kind of discussions that are taking place between SAA and Kenya Airways, which are at the very early stages, and will ultimately take place between the new SAA and Kenya Airways as well, in terms of a future relationship that could meet the requirements of the continent in various ways. Of course, in recent times, a big impediment for airlines across the world, and certainly on the African continent, is the rise in oil prices as a result of the war that we have in the European context, and the impact that that has on the cost of jet fuel. And that's something that we've got to watch carefully to ensure that aviation is able to cope